Now it's time for your eye in the sky for the next 6 weeks' weather. Brought to you by Hawkeye Pro from Ravenstown, where the proof is in the paddock.
Tony T from Blue Skies Weather. And we're just talking in the break what magnificent autumn weather we're having here in Canterbury. And I think, other than a pretty wet weekend down in Southland, it's been pretty good around the country, Tony. What's going on here?
It is a pretty good weather window we're in at the moment. This week, and indeed most of next week, we're going to be dominated by quite a large high-pressure system, and what we call an anticyclone. And that tends to bring clear skies, plenty of sunshine, no rain, mild days, cool nights. The extremities of the country tend to be on the edges of that system. So you get a little bit of easterly airflow across Northland, maybe North Auckland, those sorts of places. You tend to get a little bit of westerly airflow across Southland, South Otago, and so those areas can sometimes get a little bit windy and a little bit showery, and it'll be breezy there tomorrow, for instance. But for most of New Zealand, the next 2 weeks, very settled.
No, so obviously a big high, a big anticyclone, and that means no wind, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I've noticed about being here in Canterbury over the last week or so is the lack of wind.
That's right. Well, we're used to our easterly or northeasterly breeze on the Canterbury coast, but that's mainly a summer phenomenon. In wintertime, once the days get shorter, the easterly is a lot lighter in terms of its ability to penetrate across the plain. So you feel it if you go to Brighton or Sumner for the beach, but you get inland to Lincoln or Rangiora, and often there is no easterly or northeasterly breeze.
This, I know if I was farming right now, I would just be watching the grass grow. You would have put out your autumn fertiliser, you put out your nitrogen, you put out your lime. This would have to be almost perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah, grass growth is going to be fantastic so long as you have got good soil moisture. So the downside of all this sunshine and mild days malarkey is we don't get any rain. So if you're in a part of the country where you've had some good rainfall in the last month, say, then your grass growth is going to absolutely stonk along for the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be fantastic. But if you're in a part of the country that's missed out on some of that rain, maybe inland parts of Canterbury might be a good example, on the lighter soils in Canterbury, you're going to start to hit a bit of a soil moisture boundary there. And those people who are irrigating, for instance, on the Canterbury Plains, they might have thought they'd finished irrigating for the season. Yep. They might want to consider another week or two of that.
All right, so let's talk about then the 6-week forecast. What are we looking forward to? What are we expecting?
There's a clear arc in the next 6 weeks' data that we've looked at, and I processed all this through yesterday. The forecast went out to clients and subscribers this morning. So we're looking at the settled week to 2 weeks to start the next 6-week period. Very settled, great opportunity to do anything you want to do outdoors on your farm. You're going to be every day. You're going to be able to get out there and work, and then we're going to see a trend towards westerly, northwesterly wind flows start to pick up as we move through May. So that's going to start to make the west coast of the South Island wetter, and it's going to keep the eastern parts of both islands drier. So the dryness is going to continue for probably the best part of a month, Andy, and that's where the stress on grass growth is going to start to come in.
All right, and is that the start of the El Nino? We're talking about a super El Nino. Are we starting to see it?
It's related to the processes that are driving the development of that El Nino across the Pacific. The El Nino is not in place yet. It is not driving New Zealand's weather. But some of the smaller scale processes that are contributing to the development of that El Nino are also going to give us that period of westerly wind flow through May. Now, the important thing is the last week of May. That's the one we've got to keep an eye on, because the data is quite consistent in suggesting the last week of May we're going to see the westerlies break down, disappear, gone. And the $64,000 question is going to be, what happens, what comes in their place? Because if it's a train of low pressure systems, particularly if they affect eastern parts of the country, that last week of May could bring quite significant rainfalls to many parts of New Zealand, and it could bring a really cold southerly outbreak for the South Island. Sure. So that last week of May is like the kaboom time where the westerlies drop out and something else comes in and we can't quite see what it is yet.
But you'll be on that. You'll be able to tell us.
Next week's 6-week update will probably have a better idea of that. Yeah.
I want to come back and you can see the graphic on the screen for week 1, 27th till the 3rd of May. Settled and sunny, plus 1.5 degrees, fern warming east. So no, but that's actually quite significant. 1.5 degrees warmer, right?
1.5 degrees over.
It feels like summer
over a whole
almost.
week,
Yeah.
or even 2 weeks, is significant. Yes, 1.5 degrees for a single day. You go, yeah, okay, but 1.5 degrees for a whole week. That is definitely going to drive grass growth as long as you don't hit a soil moisture break.
But we'll be seeing temperatures, particularly in the North Island, in the plus 20s consistently, won't we?
Low 20s. You expect to see low 20s in many parts of the North Island, and maybe some inland parts of Canterbury and Marlborough too over the next week. And then the next block in there that you saw on that graphic there is the switch to westerlies. The northwesterly airflows become more active. The fronts start to come through in the northwesterly airflows. So you've got plus 22 millimetres for the west coast.
A day.
Yeah, but averaged over a week. Yeah,
Well, so that's an inch a day.
So you could be looking at an extra inch a day over and above what you'd normally see. Now that's on top of a week where you've missed out on your inch a day. Don't forget. So these things balance out over time. But that middle period of May is going to be wet and northwesterly focused. And then the last column on that graphic is related to the last week of May, week 5 of the 6-week outlook. Low pressure systems seem to be the obvious thing that we're going to see. A late May, last week of May, wildcard weather, where potentially stormy, but in what way we don't really know. We don't know if that's going to be like just easterly airflow and drizzly, or if it's going to be southerly and snowy, or if it's going to be intensive, high intensity rainfalls.
All right, farmer takeaways then. We've got 3 or 4 minutes left for the next few weeks. Obviously, good grass growth coming up.
Great grass growth season through the month of May, so long as you're not soil moisture limited, okay? So I keep saying that because there are parts of New Zealand at the moment that are drying out, and you won't see much rain. You will in Invercargill, and you might in Kaitaia, but you're not most parts of New Zealand are not going to see much rain in the next 3 or 4 weeks east of the Alps. And so those areas are going to dry out. So your grass growth might be fantastic right now, but it's going to taper off due to some moisture stress as we move through the month of May.
What about our horticultural friends? Obviously, low wind, good chance to get your spraying done.
Perfect chance to do work outdoors on any of those sort of blocks, yeah. No wind, plenty of sunshine, no rain to mess you around, perfect conditions.
Yeah. What about frost? By the sound of that, we're not too worried.
This time of year, frost is marginal when it's warmer than normal, as it will be for the next couple of weeks. But certainly as you get towards the end of May, the frost risk comes in much more strongly, and that will hit your pasture growth as well. You'll start to see a bit of frost damage to pasture, and that will slow things up too. Have
you got any outliers popping in? Is there any sort of random little storms or any regions that need to be a little bit concerned about something could pop up?
I don't think random outliers. I think that the outlier is that last week of May. That's the uncertainty. The tropical cyclone season has pretty much finished now. There's no indication of any significant tropical systems coming towards New Zealand in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's finished now, I think, for the season.
So for the next 4 weeks, pretty much get out there, fill your boots, do what you need to do on the farm. It's a pretty good autumn then, by the sound of it.
Could be an excellent autumn, particularly in eastern parts of the country. But as I say, watch that last week of May, because you're going to need your wits about you for that.
All right, I didn't prep you on this next question, but I think you know what's coming. This Saturday, 2nd of May, opening weekend. Is there anywhere where you need to be heading to make sure that you're going to get a good shoot?
Okay. Well, the last time we talked about this, you told me, quite accurately I'm sure, that the best shooting conditions is where you get lots of low cloud.
Yep.
And we've just talked about how sunny and clear the skies are going to be for the next 2 weeks, Andy.
I know.
So I'm sorry, duck shooters, but it doesn't look promising if you're looking for the low cloud. Great morning to be out and about. Won't rain on you, but...
Not even in Balfour, not even in Southland.
Southland might be the place to go, but it might be a bit windy down there. That's a problem, so your ducks might be tracking sideways down in Southland.
Well, yeah, because we haven't had a decent, miserable opening weekend for a few years. Like, honestly, you do want it as miserable as possible. And I know that's not really the forecast that a lot of people wanted, Tony. So, you know,
the funny thing is, Andy, almost everyone who asks me or pays me for a weather forecast wants good weather. They don't want it miserable, but there you go.
That one weekend of Southland. the one weekend of the year, which is opening
Which
weekend.
could be miserable, yes.
Yeah.
You'd like it to be miserable on Saturday. Sorry.
You do really want it to be miserable. What about? Sorry, I just sort of the viticulture. I should have asked about that. Obviously, are we still harvesting? I think we probably just finished.
I would say everyone's pretty much finished by now, and the wetness that most regions had last week will have finished them off with disease if they weren't anyway, I would say. So I don't think viticulture's an issue now. But again, the month of May could be an excellent month to do work in your vineyard.
So we're going to find more about what the scenario is for the last week of May, but be warned, really, is what you're saying. Be prepared for that to go a little bit sideways.
Prepared. That's when the weather will go sideways. Up until then, fairly plain sailing.
It's about when I'm due to go home. All right. Tony T, Blue Skies. Oh, how do people get your forecasts?
Yeah, check out the Blue Skies website, blueskies.co.nz/join. There's all the information there. You can subscribe onto the outlooks through a link there. You can either go on the free tier, which you get to see just a little bit of it, or you can pay the fee and become a full subscriber and get the full 13 reports for regions around New Zealand.
Get your region, or you can tune into us every Tuesday.
And I talk about it here every Tuesday.
And in person as well. Lovely to have you in studio, Tony. Thank you so much.
Andy.